Welcome to Zoe Stories. My brother left, so I took his place as his wife. I always thought my brother was the strong one, the kind of person who could walk into any room and command respect. He was older, louder, sharper, and people seemed to orbit around him while I was just the shadow that trailed behind. My name is Daniel, or at least it used to be. And the day he disappeared was the day my life ended. Or maybe the day something far stranger began. It was a suffocating summer evening, the kind where the air itself seemed heavy with secrets. Our small house rattled every time a car passed by, and the silence between those moments was almost unbearable. My brother, Adrian, had been pacing for days, phone calls and whispers slamming doors, disappearing for hours and returning with that haunted look in his eyes. Then he was gone. I found only a note, hastily scribbled, folded twice, and left on the kitchen table. The words were scrawled so fast the ink had smeared. I had no choice. Don't look for me. Don't tell anyone. Forgive me. Forgive him? For what? I clutched the note with trembling hands, my heart pounding so violently I thought my ribs might crack. He hadn't taken much with him. Just a duffel bag and the money he'd hidden in the shoebox beneath his bed. Everything else, his clothes, his cologne, even his leather jacket he never parted with, all of it remained. That's when the doorbell rang. I froze. At that hour? Who could it be? I shoved the note into my pocket and walked toward the door, each step heavier than the last. And when I opened it, she was standing there. Elena, my brother's wife. Her black hair was tied back in a severe knot, her lips painted in a shade of crimson that looked like spilled blood under the porch light. She wasn't the kind of woman who asked questions. She demanded answers. And when her eyes landed on me, I felt like prey cornered by a predator. "Where is he?" she asked flatly. My mouth went dry. He's not here." She tilted her head, studying me with those calculating eyes. Not here or gone? The silence stretched. My throat tightened. I wanted to tell her the truth, to hand her the note and say, look, he left us both behind, but something about the way she was staring at me, it made me hesitate. She wasn't grieving. She wasn't worried. She was angry. And then she stepped inside without waiting for permission. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor, echoing through the hollow house. "Do you know what this means?" she said, spinning to face me. "Do you have any idea what he's done to me, to us?" I shook my head, though I already had some idea. The late-night calls, the whispers, the tension that grew like mold in the corners of our home. Adrian was in trouble. Big trouble. Elena walked closer, so close I could smell her perfume, jasmine with something darker beneath it. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper that was far more terrifying than if she had screamed. He owed people. Dangerous people. And now they'll come looking. Do you understand? My heart thundered. Dangerous people. Suddenly, the note wasn't just a coward's goodbye. It was a death sentence for anyone left behind. For me. Elena's eyes narrowed as she looked me up and down. And then, to my horror, she smiled. You look like him. The words slid over my skin like ice water. I stammered. "W you mean?" "You look enough like him," she repeated, circling me like a hawk sizing up its prey. "The same jawline, the same eyes. If I put you in the right clothes, maybe even the same walk. No one would question it, at least, not at first." I stumbled back. "You can't be serious." Her smile widened, cruel and deliberate. "Oh, I'm deadly serious. Because if those men come here and find out Adrian's gone, do you know who they'll take instead?" My stomach dropped. "You," she said softly. "And me." Unless. Her gaze lingered on me, head tilted, as though she were already imagining it. "Unless you take his place. Not as him, but as me." I froze. The words didn't make sense at first. "As you?" She laughed, low and bitter. "Do you think they'll forgive me? Do you think his enemies will let me walk away? No, Daniel. If you want to survive, you'll have to become me. You'll have to become Adrian's wife." My knees nearly buckled. The absurdity of it crashed over me, wearing her dresses, her makeup, her life. But in her voice, There was no absurdity, only finality. "You'll do it," she said, brushing a hand under my chin, forcing me to look at her. "Because you don't have a choice. And because I'm going to make you into the perfect replacement." The room tilted. My breath caught in my throat. I opened my mouth to protest, but nothing came out. And in that moment, standing in my brother's abandoned house with his wife's crimson lips curling into a merciless smile, I realized something chilling. Adrian hadn't just left me behind. He'd left me to become him by becoming her. And Elena? She wasn't going to let me say no. Daniel has no way out. The controlling woman, Elena, has set the terms. His survival means stepping into a role he can't even imagine, his brother's wife. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My brother's note burned in my pocket, his words replaying over and over, but louder than that was Elena's voice, echoing in my head. "You'll have to become me." I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the shadows stretching across the living room. Every tick of the clock on the wall was a countdown to something I couldn't yet name. I wanted to run, pack a bag, vanish like Adrian had, but where would I go? If Elena was right, his enemies would be hunting, and I would be easy prey. The sound of footsteps pulled me out of my spiraling thoughts. Elena reappeared, still in her black dress from earlier, but now she carried a box, long, sleek, the kind you'd expect to hold something delicate. She set it on the coffee table with a sharp thud that made me flinch. "Stand up," she ordered. My body reacted before my brain could object. She opened the box. Inside, folded with military precision, was a cream-colored satin nightgown trimmed with lace. It shimmered under the weak light, fragile and cruel all at once. "No," I whispered. "Yes," Elena said, her tone flat, merciless. "If you're going to be me, you'll start tonight. Put it on." My hands curled into fists. "This is insane. You can't." Her eyes snapped up to mine, and I froze. There was steel in that gaze, a danger I couldn't measure. She stepped closer, voice low and sharp. "Do you think you have a choice, Daniel? You saw the way Adrian left. He left you to clean up his mess. If those men come tomorrow, what will you say? That you're just his little brother? That won't save you. But if you're me, if you look like me, talk like me, breathe like me, then maybe we both walk away alive." Her words pressed down like iron shackles. My breath came shallow, my chest tightening. She wasn't just threatening me with humiliation. She was threatening me with survival. My lips parted, trembling. I don't know how." Her smile was slow, predatory. "Then I'll teach you." She lifted the nightgown from the box, the satin whispering as it unfolded. She held it out to me, the fabric dangling like a noose. "Strip," she said. Heat flushed my face. What? "No." She raised an eyebrow, her tone dangerously calm. "Do you want me to do it for you?" The room spun. I felt exposed even in my jeans and t-shirt, like she could already see through me. My pride screamed to resist, but something heavier, fear, inevitability, pushed me forward. My fingers moved clumsily to the hem of my shirt. Elena watched, arms crossed, as I peeled the fabric over my head, my skin prickling under her gaze. I kicked off my jeans, leaving me in nothing but boxers, my body tense and vulnerable. "Good boy," she murmured, though the words dripped with mockery. "Now, these won't do." She tossed me something small in black lace panties. The sight made my stomach churn. "I can't." "You will." Her voice cracked like a whip, and my hands shook as I slid them on, the fabric tight and alien against me. Shame burned in my chest, hotter than any fire. Elena stepped closer, holding the nightgown open like a priestess at some twisted ritual. I slipped my arms through, the satin sliding down my skin, cool and smooth, suffocating in its softness. It clung to me in ways I didn't want to notice, outlining me in curves I didn't have. Elena circled me, her heels clicking like a metronome of judgment. She adjusted the straps, tugged the lace into place, then stepped back to admire her creation. "There," she said softly. "You see? Not so different." I wanted to scream, to rip it off, to tell her she was insane. But when I caught my reflection in the darkened window, my breath caught. For a flicker of a moment, with the nightgown hanging off me and the shadows blurring the hard edges of my body, I didn't see myself. I saw someone else. Elena noticed too. Her smile deepened. "Tomorrow," she said, brushing a lock of hair from my face, "we start with makeup. You'll learn how to walk, how to speak, how to be me. Piece by piece, Daniel, you'll disappear. And when I'm finished..." Her fingers traced my jaw, her eyes glinting with cruel satisfaction. "No one will ever know you were anything but my reflection." A shiver raced through me. I wanted to cry, to beg, to undo every step that had led me here. But instead, I stood frozen in satin and lace, caught in her trap. And in that silence, I realized something worse than fear itself. A part of me wondered, just for a second, what it would feel like to go further. Daniel's first night ends with him trapped in lingerie and a nightgown, forced to submit to Elena's command. Tomorrow, the real transformation begins. Morning came like a punishment. I barely slept, tossing and turning in the suffocating satin nightgown Elena had forced on me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my brother's note, his scrawled words telling me to forgive him, but now forgiveness felt impossible. He hadn't just abandoned me. He had condemned me. When I stumbled into the kitchen, Elena was already there, sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. But on the table beside her sat a black leather case, neatly unzipped, brushes and tubes glinting inside. My stomach twisted at the sight. "Sit," she commanded, pointing to the chair across from her. "Elena, please. Sit." The word left no room for disobedience. I sat. She leaned forward, her fingers surprisingly gentle as she brushed the hair out of my face. "You're lucky," she murmured. "Your skin is smooth, your features soft. You'll take to this better than Adrian ever would have. Almost like you were meant for it." I flinched. Meant for what? Her smile was sharp as a knife. To disappear. She began with foundation, cool cream smeared across my cheeks, forehead, chin. The smell was powdery, foreign, a mask being pressed over my skin. I wanted to pull away, but her grip on my chin was iron. "Hold still," she said, her voice low. "If you smudge, I'll start over. And believe me, I don't mind taking all day." The brushes swept over me, strokes both delicate and damning. My reflection in the small mirror tilted toward me slowly blurred, reshaped. Shadows deepened under my eyes. Lashes darkened, lips painted in a glossy pink that caught the light. When she stepped back, I almost didn't recognize myself. My chest heaved. I look pretty," Elena finished for me. She tilted my face from side to side, inspecting me like an artist admiring her work. Almost beautiful, but not quite. Not yet. I wanted to wipe it all away, to scrub my skin raw, but her voice kept me pinned. "Now," she said, reaching for a wig from the case. Long, dark brown, silky waves that looked almost exactly like her own hair. She placed it on my head, adjusted the strands, then smoothed them with practiced fingers. Look in the mirror again. My throat closed. Because now I didn't just look different. I looked like her. "Elena, this is only the beginning," she cut me off. "And today you're going out." The words hit like ice water.
"What? No."
"I can't. I'll never pass." "You will," she snapped. "And if you don't, you'll learn. Because the sooner the world starts to see you as me, the safer we are." My hands trembled on the table. "Where are you taking me?" Her smile was merciless. "Somewhere public enough to test you, but private enough to break you if you fail. The salon." The salon. My lungs seized. She couldn't mean it. She couldn't drag me into a room full of strangers dressed like this. But the gleam in her eyes told me she absolutely could. And would. The car ride was silent except for the pounding of my heart. I tugged at the hem of the sundress Elena had shoved me into, the pastel fabric soft against my legs, alien against my skin. Every second I prayed for the earth to swallow me whole. When we arrived, the bell above the salon door jingled. The smell of hairspray and perfume wrapped around me instantly. Heads turned. Women chatting in chairs, stylists holding curling irons, all of them paused, eyes flicking toward us. Heat flushed my entire body. They were staring. They knew. But Elena's hand pressed firmly against my back, guiding me forward. "Chin up," she whispered. "Smile. Remember, you're me." My lips twitched into something brittle and false. The receptionist beamed. "Elena, right on time. And oh, you brought a friend?" Elena's grip on me tightened. "Not a friend," she said smoothly. "This is me." I decided I needed a new look. What better place to start? The receptionist blinked, confusion flickering, then smoothed it over with a polite laugh. "Of course. Right this way." I thought I'd faint. She had introduced me as herself. Minutes later, I was in a salon chair, a cape draped over me, while a stylist circled me like a hawk. "So, what are we thinking?" the woman asked. Elena leaned on the counter, her arms crossed, eyes glittering with satisfaction.
Soft waves.
Feminine, polished. Something that says wife, not girl. Wife. The word burned. The stylist nodded, already combing through the wig like it was natural hair. The tugging, the heat of the blow dryer, the curling iron pressing against my scalp. It was overwhelming. But worse was the chatter. Women gossiping beside me, laughter echoing, their reflections in the mirrors surrounding me. And then my own reflection, trapped in the middle of it all. The makeup, the wig, the dress. For the first time, I wasn't just dressed up in secret. I wasn't playing. I was public. The stylist stepped back at last, smiling. "Beautiful," she declared. "You look like a new woman." The word rang in my ears. Woman. I wanted to disappear. But Elena was smiling, satisfied, victorious. "Doesn't she?" Elena said, her gaze locking onto mine in the mirror. "She looks perfect." I swallowed hard, my painted lips trembling. Because in the mirror, beneath the shame and humiliation, there was something worse than fear. A part of me almost believed her. Daniel's first public appearance leaves him shaken. He's introduced as Elena, transformed under the eyes of strangers, and for a dangerous second, he feels the pull of that new identity. The salon had been a nightmare, but the true horror began when we got home. Elena didn't let me change. I sat stiffly in the sundress she'd forced onto me, the wig heavy on my head, makeup clinging to my skin like a mask I couldn't peel off. My chest still tightened every time I remembered the stylist's words, "Beautiful, a new woman," as if they'd burned into my ears. Elena paced the living room, heels clicking like a metronome of doom. She was watching me, studying me. Then, without warning, she clapped her hands once. "Stand up." I obeyed. My knees wobbled beneath the dress. "Now," she said, her tone sharp as glass, "walk." I blinked. "What?" "Across the room," she repeated. "Walk. Like me." My pulse jumped. "I don't know how to." Her eyes narrowed. "Then learn. You can't just look like me, Daniel. You have to move like me. Every step, every gesture, every breath. If you fail, people will see through you in a heartbeat. So walk." My throat dried. I tried. My bare feet patted against the wooden floor as I shuffled forward, stiff and clumsy. "Stop." Her voice cracked through me. "You look like a boy in a dress," she snapped. Again. Heat rose in my face. I turned and tried again, but my stride was too long, my shoulders hunched, my arms swinging awkwardly. "Wrong," she barked. "Do you think I walk like that? Do you think anyone would believe it?" I clenched my fists. "This is impossible." She strode forward, grabbing my chin, forcing my gaze into hers. "Nothing is impossible when your life depends on it. And don't forget, if you fail, you don't just die. We die." The words stabbed deep. My anger collapsed into fear. "Now," she said, her tone softening into something almost sweet. "Watch me." She moved across the room, a fluid glide, each step measured, her hips swaying with confidence I couldn't dream of imitating. She turned, Her chin tilted slightly, her arms relaxed but purposeful. Every movement screamed elegance and control. "Again," she said, gesturing to me. I swallowed hard and tried to mimic her. Shorter steps, lighter on my feet, my shoulders back. But it still felt wrong, mechanical. Elena sighed, circling me like a predator. Then, to my shock, she slipped off her heels and thrust them at me. "Put these on." I stared at them like they were weapons. Black stilettos, tall enough to break my ankles. "No, no, I can't. You will." Her eyes pinned me. There was no escaping. My trembling hands took the shoes. I slid my feet in, wobbling instantly as the heels forced my weight forward. "Now walk," she said. The first step was agony. My ankles screamed. My balance teetered. I grabbed at the wall for support, but Elena's sharp voice cut me down. "Don't cling. Walk." I staggered across the floor, each step a humiliation. My calves burned. My body swayed dangerously. I felt like a puppet being dragged by invisible strings. Elena's lips curled in a cruel smile. "Better. You're clumsy, but with practice, you'll learn. You'll become." Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them back. "And now," she said, moving closer, "your voice." My stomach lurched. My voice. "You can't sound like yourself," she said simply. "If someone hears Adrian's shy little brother speaking with that low, broken voice, it's over. So, higher."
Softer.
"Like me." I shook my head. "No, I can't." Her hand darted out, fingers gripping my throat, not hard, but enough to make me freeze. "You will." She released me, stepping back.
"Say it."
"Say, hello, my name is Elena." Shame seared through me. I opened my mouth, but the word stuck. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "Say it." "Hello, my name is Elena." I mumbled, my voice low and strained. "Wrong," she snapped. Again. Higher. "Hello, my name is Elena." I tried again, my tone cracking upward, awkward, ridiculous. Her lips curved. Better. Again. Over and over she drilled me, each time pushing me higher, softer, until the sound coming out of my mouth no longer resembled me at all. It was weak, trembling, feminine. By the time she finally let me stop, my throat burned. I wanted to collapse, to scream, to tear the wig and makeup from my face. But Elena only smiled, satisfied. "You see," she said, tilting my chin up with a painted fingernail. "Piece by piece, you're fading. Soon, no one will remember Daniel at all." I shuddered, trapped in heels that felt like shackles, my voice stolen, my walk rewritten. And when I caught my reflection in the mirror again, makeup smudged, wig slightly crooked, dress wrinkled, I realized with horror that she was right. Daniel was disappearing. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, but instead of warmth, it felt like a spotlight of judgment. My heart was still racing from the nightmare that had become my reality. I sat up in bed, hoping, praying, that maybe last night had been some twisted dream. But then I saw it.
The dress.
That same red dress from the night before was draped neatly over the chair across my room, like a silent executioner waiting for me to walk willingly to my fate. Its silk shimmered under the sunlight, taunting me. I felt bile rise in my throat. That's when my phone buzzed. With shaking fingers, I picked it up. The message was short, sharp, and suffocating. "Wear it, or I'll release everything." My chest tightened. My worst fear wasn't just the humiliation of dressing like this. It was what he had on me. The secrets, the files, the proof of everything I had tried to keep hidden. If that went public, my life would be over. I sat frozen for a moment, clutching the phone like it was a weapon aimed at me. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye. My face looked pale, haunted, and my hair messy. But all I could see was the scared boy inside, who didn't know how much longer he could keep pretending. Finally, my trembling hands reached for the dress. The fabric was soft, too soft, slipping between my fingers like temptation and punishment rolled into one. Sliding it over my body felt wrong, but it also fit too perfectly, clinging to me like it had been designed just for this humiliation. Then came the heels. They were tall, sharp, almost predatory. I slipped my feet into them, wobbling as if the ground had betrayed me. I tried to stand tall, but the mirror mocked me with a reflection that wasn't entirely mine anymore. I looked like a stranger, a fragile, feminized version of myself. When I finally stepped outside, the world turned into a battlefield. Every glance felt like a bullet, every whisper like a dagger. People's eyes lingered longer than usual, their lips curling into smirks or half-hidden laughs. My heart pounded so violently it felt like the heels were echoing its rhythm. I wanted to scream, to rip everything off and run, but I couldn't. The hacker's shadow followed me everywhere. By the time I made it home, my body was aching, my pride shattered, and my soul felt bruised. I collapsed on the bed, clutching my pillow, wishing for escape. But the nightmare wasn't done. My phone lit up again. Another message. This one was worse. Good girl. Tomorrow we go further. The words sent shivers crawling down my spine. I slammed the phone face down, but it didn't stop the words from echoing in my head. My breaths came shallow, desperate, as if the walls were closing in. He wasn't going to stop. He was just getting started. And deep down, I knew I was trapped. I thought the nightmare would end once I left school that day, but instead, it was only the beginning. As soon as I stepped through the front door, my mom was already waiting in the living room, her arms folded, her eyes burning with questions I wasn't ready to answer. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice sharper than usual. I froze, clutching my bag tighter. My throat felt dry. Just at school," I muttered, trying to sound casual. But moms always know. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. I got a call from your teacher today. She said you've been acting strange. Do you want to explain what's going on?" My heart dropped. The room suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in on me. My teacher had really called? What did she say? Did she tell my mom everything she saw? I was just helping with something, I stammered. She stepped closer, her eyes scanning me, almost as if she could see through the layers of my clothes and into the secret I was trying to hide. My skin prickled under her gaze. I felt like a criminal about to be caught red-handed. "Helping with what?" she pressed, her tone softer now but more dangerous. That kind of softness that told me she already suspected the truth. I swallowed hard. My mind scrambled for a believable excuse, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heartbeat. My legs trembled. I wanted to run upstairs and lock myself in my room, but my mom blocked the way. That was when my little sister popped her head out of her room upstairs, holding something pink in her hand. "Hey, whose is this?" she shouted playfully, dangling it between her fingers. My stomach twisted violently. It was the pink hairband I thought I had hidden in my bag, the one my teacher gave me when she dressed me up earlier. Somehow it had slipped out. My mom turned her head slowly, her eyes narrowing further as she recognized the object. Then, in an almost terrifying calmness, she looked back at me. "Care to explain?" I froze, completely paralyzed. My secret wasn't just mine anymore. It was out in the open, hanging in the air like smoke that couldn't be blown away. Inside, my mind screamed, "How much longer can I keep pretending? How much longer before they all know the truth, that I'm changing, that I'm not the same son she thought she had?" The silence between us stretched unbearably, every second dragging like hours. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just a mistake I could hide. This was something bigger, something that would change everything. The following days became a living nightmare. Everywhere I turned, there was a reminder of what had happened that night. At school, people stared at me with curious eyes, whispering as if they already knew something. My phone buzzed constantly with anonymous messages. "Pretty girl, want to show us more?" Or, "Better do as you're told, or everyone will see the real you." I tried to ignore them at first, but the hacker never let me breathe. Every day, a new demand came. Wear the skirt again. Take a picture in lipstick. Record yourself walking like a girl. Each order pushed me deeper into something I never imagined I would do. At first, I refused. I threw my phone on the bed and screamed into my pillow, telling myself this was insane. But then another message arrived, this time with a blurred screenshot of my computer files. My essays, my private photos, my browsing history, all dangling over my head. If he leaked even one, my life would collapse. So I obeyed. The first real demand was humiliating. To put on the same outfit I wore the night he hacked me, stand in front of the mirror, and take a clear photo. I remember holding my phone with trembling hands, dressed in a tight dress that clung to my body, my lips painted red as instructed. When I sent the picture, I expected silence. Instead, another message popped up instantly. Good. Now smile. Look like you enjoy it. That broke me. I forced a fake smile, pressing the shutter again, my reflection mocking me. Days passed, and his demands grew more twisted. He didn't just want proof anymore, he wanted transformation. He ordered me to shave my legs, to practice makeup tutorials, to walk in heels around my room. Slowly, my mirror stopped showing the boy I once was. Instead, it showed a stranger, someone caught between two worlds. But what scared me the most wasn't just the blackmail. It was the strange feeling deep inside me. A part of me, small but undeniable, felt something new when I saw myself like that. A strange spark I didn't want to admit. And maybe that was exactly what the hacker wanted. I sat at the edge of my bed, my heart hammering against my ribs as if it wanted to escape my chest. Delilah's words replayed in my head, over and over again, each repetition cutting deeper than the last. You don't get it, Zoe. This isn't just about fun anymore. If you don't do this, your secret is out. Everyone will know what you've been hiding. The thought alone made my blood run cold. The secret she held over me was powerful enough to destroy the life I had built. My friends, my family, even the fragile sense of control I clung to, it would all crumble the moment she pressed upload. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, as if pain could somehow anchor me against the tide of panic. Delilah stood across the room, leaning against my desk, arms folded, her expression a mixture of confidence and satisfaction. She knew she had me cornered, and worse, she was enjoying every second of it. The worst part? She wasn't wrong. She had all the power, and I had none. What exactly do you want from me? I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Her lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. I want you to stop fighting what you're meant to be. I want you to step fully into this role, not half-heartedly. You'll be my star, my beautiful, perfect creation. You'll wear what I choose, act how I teach you, and in return, she waved her phone mockingly, your little secret stays safe. I swallowed hard. My throat felt dry as dust. And if I refuse? Her smile sharpened. Then tomorrow, everyone sees the video. No more hiding. No more pretending. Silence wrapped around me like a vice. I could almost hear the clock ticking in the background, each second pulling me closer to a decision I didn't want to make. My stomach churned with dread, but beneath that dread was something else, something I hated to admit. A tiny, trembling thread of curiosity. What if she was right? What if there was a part of me that belonged in that mirror, in that makeup, in those clothes? But I pushed the thought away. This wasn't about desire. This was about survival. I nodded slowly, barely able to force the word past my lips. Fine. Delilah clapped her hands together, delighted, like a child unwrapping a gift. Perfect. You won't regret this. But deep down, I knew I already did. As she pulled out a bag stuffed with makeup, dresses, and wigs, I realized that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was a surrender. And as much as I hated the idea of being molded into her vision, I hated the thought of losing everything even more. For the first time in my life, I wasn't in control of my own identity. Someone else was. And the terrifying truth was, I had no choice but to let her win. The next morning felt unreal. I woke up thinking everything would return to normal, that maybe last night's makeover was just a temporary joke. But when I went to the mirror, traces of eyeliner still lingered around my lashes, and my lips were faintly stained pink. I scrubbed at my face, but it didn't matter. Something inside me had already changed. Delilah knocked on my door. Get up, Sleeping Beauty. Today's the real deal. I opened the door reluctantly, still in my oversized t-shirt. She pushed past me carrying 2 garment bags, each zipped up tight like secrets waiting to be revealed. What's that? I asked, already nervous. Your future, she said with a smirk. Don't argue. Just trust me. When she unzipped the first bag, my breath caught. A floral sundress, light and flowing, with thin straps and a hem that looked far too short for comfort. The second bag revealed a sleek, fitted skirt with a blouse so delicate it looked like it belonged in a fashion magazine. No way. I'm not putting those on, I said quickly, backing away. Delilah folded her arms. You promised. You said you'd go all the way. Makeup was just step 1. This is step 2. My chest tightened. A part of me wanted to fight back, to run, but another part, the part that remembered the thrill of last night, was curious. What if I did put it on? What would I look like? She handed me the sundress first. Try this. I'll wait. I hesitated, but finally took it into the bathroom. Changing felt strange, almost like stepping into another skin. The fabric was soft against my body, and the dress hugged me in ways my clothes never had. When I looked at my reflection, I barely recognized myself. The boy I knew seemed to be slipping away, replaced by someone prettier, softer, almost radiant. When I walked out, Delilah gasped dramatically.
See?
I knew it. You were meant for this. Shut up, I muttered, but my cheeks flushed hot. She spun me around, fixed the straps, and added a necklace around my neck. Perfect. Now walk. Walk. Like down the hallway?
No.
Walk like her. She pointed at her hips and began demonstrating a sway so natural it made me blush harder. I can't do that, I said. You can. And you will. She played a pop song on her phone and made me strut back and forth in the living room. My steps were awkward at first, clumsy even, but with every attempt, I started to find a rhythm. The hem of the dress swished around my legs, my hair, styled by her earlier, bounced lightly, and suddenly, I felt something spark inside me. For a fleeting moment, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't acting. I was living it. Delilah clapped. That's it. You're not just wearing a dress. You're becoming her. Her words lingered. Becoming her. It was supposed to be a game, a dare, a temporary joke. But now, staring at my reflection and the smile I couldn't quite hide, I realized this was turning into something far bigger than either of us had planned. The following days felt like I was living in a cage, except the bars weren't steel. They were lipsticks, skirts, and high heels. Every morning, my girlfriend, Serena, would wake me up not with a kiss, but with a makeup brush in her hand. Up, sweetheart. The world is waiting for its newest beauty queen, she'd tease, her tone both playful and commanding. I wanted to resist. I wanted to tell her that this had gone too far. But every time I even hinted at stopping, she would remind me of the photos. Dozens of pictures of me in full makeup, smiling, posing, even enjoying myself. She had them all saved, ready to release at any moment. One evening, she introduced me to something new, a live stream. It's harmless, she said, brushing soft curls into my wig. We'll just test your look on camera, no names, no details. Just fun. I felt a surge of panic. Going live meant anyone could see me. My friends, my family, what if someone recognized me? But Serena was relentless. Think of it as a little debut. Just 5 minutes, she whispered as she fastened a choker around my neck, her fingers lingering against my skin. You'll be perfect. When the camera light blinked red, my heart hammered in my chest. I sat frozen at first, but Serena nudged me. Say hello, she whispered. And somehow I did. My voice was softer than usual, but it sounded shockingly feminine. The comments started pouring, and immediately, she's gorgeous. Love her look. That lipstick is fire. Every compliment made my stomach twist. A part of me wanted to shut it all down, to scream that I wasn't this girl they thought I was. But another part of me, the part that saw Serena's proud smile, couldn't deny the thrill of being admired. When the stream ended, I collapsed back on the bed, trembling.
See?
They love you, Serena said, kissing my cheek. And this is just the beginning. That night, lying awake, I realized the trap wasn't just Serena's blackmail anymore. It was me. I had let myself enjoy it just a little, and that made me more vulnerable than ever. The days passed, but instead of things calming down, the trap around me kept getting tighter. What started as a temporary favor had now become my daily reality. Every morning, instead of throwing on jeans and a hoodie, I found myself slipping into silky stockings, skirts that hugged my waist, and blouses that made my chest look fuller than it really was. My reflection in the mirror didn't show a confused boy anymore. It showed a girl who looked polished, composed, and disturbingly comfortable in her own skin. But inside, I was anything but comfortable. The whispers at school grew louder. "Who's that new girl?" someone asked in the hallway. "She's gorgeous," another whispered, not realizing it was me they were talking about. I felt my stomach twist. Compliments like that should have felt good, but they terrified me. What if someone recognized me? What if my secret slipped out? One afternoon, I cornered her. "This has gone too far," I said, my voice trembling as I stared at her smirk. "I can't keep doing this. People are starting to notice. I'm losing myself." She leaned closer, her eyes gleaming with power. "Losing yourself?" she whispered. "No, you're finding yourself. Don't you see? No one looks at you as a joke anymore. No one ignores you. You're admired, noticed, even envied. Isn't that what you always wanted?" Her words hit me like a storm. She wasn't entirely wrong. I remembered the countless times I had wished to be seen, to matter, to not just blend into the background. And now, I was finally visible. But at what cost? I wanted to argue, to scream that this wasn't what I asked for. But when I caught sight of myself in the reflection of her phone screen, long lashes framing my eyes, lips glossy with a soft pink shine, I froze. For a split second, I didn't see me. I saw her creation, her doll, her project, and I hated that a part of me didn't hate it at all. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. My hands absent-mindedly traced the smoothness of my freshly sh. The days blurred together after that night. Each morning I woke up expecting to see myself again. Just me, a regular guy. But instead, I found myself in dresses, in heels, in makeup, staring at a reflection that no longer seemed temporary. At first, I had clung to the hope that this was just a phase. That somehow, this punishment, this cruel twist of fate, would end soon. But the more I waited, the more I realized it wasn't ending. My life was spiraling into something I never planned for, and every day the world seemed to accept this version of me more than I did. One afternoon, I sat by the window, my heart heavy as I gazed outside at people laughing, living normal lives. I thought about who I used to be, the guy who had dreams of building his own future, the one who had friends, freedom, and control. That guy was slipping further away, replaced by someone delicate, polished, and feminine. Tears burned in my eyes as I whispered, "Who am I anymore?" The silence of the room answered back with cruel honesty. I wasn't him anymore. The world no longer saw me as him. I wasn't treated as him. Even my own reflection betrayed me. The breaking point came when I tried, one last time, to resist. I wiped the makeup off my face, pulled on an old hoodie, and tried to step outside like nothing had changed. But the stares, the whispers, the smirks, it was unbearable. People didn't see a man in a hoodie. They saw a girl pretending. They saw someone who didn't fit either world. That night, I collapsed onto my bed, sobbing. For the first time, I admitted the truth that had been gnawing at me all along. I couldn't go back. The boy I used to be was gone, and holding on to him was only breaking me apart. It was in that fragile, painful moment that something shifted inside me. I realized that if I kept resisting, I would lose myself completely. But if I gave in, even if it hurt, I might finally stop fighting the inevitable. My breaking point wasn't the end. It was the beginning of surrender. The days turned into weeks, and what had started as a twisted punishment began to feel more and more like a permanent reality. My closet was unrecognizable, Dresses of every style, silky blouses, fitted skirts, and heels lined in perfect rows. My drawers overflowed with lingerie I had once blushed to even imagine, but now I was expected to wear every day without question. Delilah had been relentless. Each morning, she inspected me like a sculptor perfecting her art. She corrected the way I walked, the way I sat, even the way I held a wine glass. "No man slouches like that in heels," she would snap, forcing me to glide gracefully across the room again and again until my calves screamed. But it wasn't just my body she was molding, it was my mind. I found myself spending hours in front of the mirror, obsessing over every detail of my makeup. A stray hair in my wig felt like a catastrophe. If my eyeliner smudged, I panicked as though the world might end. Delilah had planted a seed in me, a gnawing, terrifying thought. What if I wasn't pretending anymore? What if this was who I was becoming? The outside world was no longer safe either. Delilah insisted on taking me out more often. Shopping trips became routine. Cafes, malls, even late-night walks down busy streets, all while dressed in full feminine attire. At first, I was paralyzed with fear, convinced that everyone could see through me. But to my shock, strangers treated me like any other young woman. Compliments on my dress, flirtatious smiles from men. For brief, fleeting moments, I even forgot the shame. One night, though, things reached a terrifying climax. Delilah threw a small party at her place and invited a few friends I had never met. My heart nearly stopped when she introduced me, not by my real name, but by a new one she had chosen for me. A soft, feminine name that rolled off her tongue like it had always belonged to me. Her friends smiled, laughed, and treated me like one of them. But inside, I was crumbling. Every giggle, every playful compliment about my figure or perfect lipstick chipped away at the thin barrier I had left between reality and the mask I wore. I could no longer tell where the punishment ended and where I began. That night, when the guests finally left, I looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection was flawless, soft curls framing my face, lips painted a seductive red, a dress hugging curves that weren't supposed to exist. I touched the glass, my fingers trembling. "Who are you?" I whispered. But no answer came. Delilah appeared behind me, her hands resting firmly on my shoulders, her eyes locking with mine in the mirror. "You're becoming who you were always meant to be," she said, her voice calm, almost tender. And, for the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to fight back. I thought I had finally gained some control over my life. I had adjusted to the heels, the skirts, the makeup. I had even learned how to walk into a room without shrinking away, how to look people in the eyes without flinching. But just when I felt like I was getting closer to reclaiming myself, everything began to fall apart. It started with a message. Late at night, when I was sitting at my desk, trying to distract myself with anything other than the mirror across from me, my phone buzzed. The message wasn't from a friend. It wasn't from family. It was from her. "Don't think you can stop now," the text read. "You're mine until I say otherwise." My stomach twisted. I had spent days convincing myself that I was playing along, that I was somehow manipulating the situation to survive. But the words on my phone screen reminded me of a truth I had been trying to bury. I wasn't the one in control. She was. And she had no intention of letting me walk away. The following day, the pressure escalated. She forced me into an even more elaborate outfit, heels taller than before, a dress tighter than anything I had worn, makeup so heavy it felt like a mask glued to my skin. My plan had been to resist quietly, to make small moves toward freedom without drawing her attention. But she was watching me closer than ever, as if she could sense my thoughts of escape. And then came the worst part. She invited people over. When I saw them walk into the living room, 3 of her closest friends, I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear their voices. She introduced me not as myself, but as someone else entirely. She gave me a name, a female name, and her friends smiled, laughed, and accepted it without hesitation. I felt the ground slipping from beneath me. Every moment they talked to me as if I was this girl, Every time I had to nod, answer, and play along, another piece of my identity was stolen. I wasn't just pretending anymore. I was being rewritten in front of others, my existence twisted into something I hadn't agreed to. Inside, I was screaming. But outwardly, I smiled, giggled, and followed along with every cruel instruction whispered into my ear. Because what else could I do? That night, when everyone had left, I stared at myself in the mirror, trembling. The plan I had clung to, the belief that I could manage this, outsmart her, and eventually reclaim my life, was gone. She had moved too fast, too ruthlessly. She wasn't just controlling my clothes or my actions. She was reshaping the world around me, piece by piece, until I didn't recognize myself anymore. And the most terrifying part? A voice deep inside whispered that maybe I couldn't stop it, even if I tried. The day I had feared finally arrived. Until now, my transformation had been contained within the walls of my home, my friend's room, and a few experimental outings where I clung to the safety of anonymity. But now the world was about to see me, not as the boy I once was, but as the girl I had been shaped into. It started with a phone call. My friend, who had been orchestrating much of this transformation, excitedly told me about a community event happening nearby. A charity fashion walk. "You'd be perfect for it," she said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. My heart froze. Perfect?
Me?
On a stage? In front of strangers? I wanted to refuse outright. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead, I found myself listening as she painted a picture of how empowering it could be, how I would walk in a stunning dress, lights shining on me, everyone clapping, admiring. She told me this wasn't just about clothes or makeup anymore. It was about claiming my place in the world, letting them see what even I had been too afraid to fully admit. The following week was a blur of preparation. Fittings, makeup trials, rehearsals. Each time I slipped into the gown, a long, shimmering piece that hugged my frame, I felt my chest tighten, not just from fear but from the undeniable fact that I looked breathtaking. The mirror reflected someone I barely recognized, a tall, graceful young woman with soft curls cascading down her shoulders, lips painted in a deep, bold red, and eyes lined so sharply that they seemed to pierce right through. The night of the event, my nerves were unbearable. Backstage, surrounded by other models, real women, I kept fidgeting, tugging at my dress, praying no one would notice my trembling hands. My friend placed a hand on my shoulder and whispered, "You're ready. Trust me." When my turn came, the music swelled and the spotlight found me. For a second, the world stopped. My legs wanted to lock in place, but instinct, no, training pushed me forward. Heels clicked against the polished floor, every step echoing through the vast hall. Eyes followed me, heads turned, but instead of ridicule, I saw admiration. Applause filled the room as I reached the end of the runway, striking a pose I had rehearsed dozens of times. Cameras flashed. Whispers floated through the crowd. "She's gorgeous. Look at her confidence. Who is she?" For the first time, I wasn't just hiding behind makeup and dresses. I was standing in the open, claiming this identity that had been forced upon me but had also, slowly, become mine. As I walked back, my heart raced, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was exhilaration. I had just been seen, truly seen, and the world hadn't fallen apart. In fact, it had applauded. That night, I realized something. Once the world sees you like this, there's no going back. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions, fear, and uncertainty. By now, my life no longer resembled the boy I once was. It was something completely different. I had become her. A girl who wore heels without stumbling, who knew how to paint her lips in perfect shades, who carried herself with poise that used to belong only to others. But deep inside, the questions gnawed at me. Was this still a punishment, or had it become my reality? One evening, I was called into the grand living room. The man who had orchestrated my transformation, the one who had held power over every choice I made, was sitting there, sipping wine as though he had been waiting for this moment. His eyes locked on me, and a chilling smile spread across his face. "You've come far," he said softly. So far, in fact, that I almost don't recognize the boy you once were. Tell me, do you recognize him anymore? I froze. My reflection from earlier that day came rushing back to me. The flawless makeup, the long hair cascading over my shoulders, the skirt swaying gently with each step. That boy, the one who once wore hoodies and sneakers, seemed like a ghost I could no longer touch. I whispered, almost trembling, I don't know who I am anymore. He leaned closer, is the point. You are no longer you. You are who I've made you. My heart pounded, my hands clutching at the fabric of my dress. I should have felt rage. I should have resisted. I should have screamed. But instead, a horrifying truth settled inside me. Part of me didn't want to go back. He studied me with piercing eyes. So here's your choice. Leave now and try to piece together the shattered remains of your old life, or stay, embrace who you've become, and accept that you were always meant to be her. Tears welled up in my eyes. My mind screamed one thing, but my body betrayed me. My lips quivered, painted in crimson red, as the word slipped out before I could stop it. I'll stay. And in that instant, I realized the punishment was complete. I wasn't trapped anymore because I had stopped resisting. I had become the very thing I swore I would never be. And the most terrifying part was, I didn't hate it. The man's smile widened, and his voice cut through the silence, like a final verdict.
Good.
Because now you are mine. The room spun around me, and as I sank into the velvet chair, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was not the end. This was only the beginning of a new life, one I had never asked for, but one I could no longer escape. The night of truth had arrived. I stood before the tall mirror in my bedroom, my heart pounding harder than it ever had. The reflection staring back at me was no longer the shy, confused boy who had been forced into skirts and lipstick against his will. No, the person in the mirror was something else entirely. A woman, beautiful, graceful, and confident. Yet deep down, I knew that wasn't the whole truth. Inside, I was still me, still torn, still struggling with the impossible choices life had thrown at me. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from her. It's time. You have to decide tonight. No turning back after this. I picked it up with trembling fingers, rereading those words again and again. My legs felt weak, my lips dry. This was it. The game, the lies, the manipulation, it had all led me to this one night. I wanted to scream, to throw everything away, but at the same time, a part of me, the part one didn't want to admit existed, wanted to hold on. Memories came crashing back. The first dress, the humiliation, the laughter of those who had trapped me, the endless days of makeup, high heels, and forced smiles. But then another set of memories fought back. Moments where I had felt alive in a way I never had before. The thrill of walking into a room and being noticed. The softness of silk brushing against my skin. The unexpected confidence that came from being seen as someone else entirely. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my head buried in my hands. Was this really me now? Or was it all just a mask I had been forced to wear so long that it started to feel real? A knock echoed at my door. I froze. Then her voice, calm, certain, commanding. Have you decided? Will you accept who you are now? Or will you walk away and never look back? My throat tightened. My heart screamed two different answers. My mind whispered one thing. My heart whispered another. I looked back at the mirror one last time. The face staring at me was waiting for an answer too. Tears welled in my eyes. I knew that no matter what I chose, my life would never be the same again. I stood, walked slowly to the door, and placed my hand on the handle. My lips trembled as I whispered to myself the words that would decide my fate forever. And then I opened the door. The ending was no longer about whether I had been forced or tricked. It was about the choice I finally made for myself. A choice that would either set me free or bind me forever. Days passed, but each one felt heavier than the last. I no longer recognized myself in the mirror. The girl looking back at me wore silky blouses, skirts that clung to her thighs, and soft makeup that brought out delicate features I never thought I had. The heels pinched, The jewelry clinked, and the scent of perfume followed me everywhere like a shadow. I had grown used to walking in heels, brushing my hair, and reapplying lipstick every few hours. But inside, I was cracking. At night, when I finally removed the wig or loosened the curls, I would stare into the bathroom mirror and whisper to myself, "Who am I? Where did the old me go?" One evening, Delilah noticed me trembling while removing my mascara. My hands shook so badly the makeup remover smeared across my cheek. She gently held my wrist. "You're fighting yourself too much," she whispered. "The more you resist, the more it hurts." Her words stung. Was I really fighting myself? Or was I fighting her control? I didn't know anymore. I thought things couldn't get worse, but then Delilah dropped a bombshell. One afternoon, she handed me her phone. On the screen was a video. Me, fully dressed, walking gracefully, laughing, sipping a drink, twirling my hair. "You recorded me?" I gasped. Delilah nodded casually, almost proud. "You looked stunning that night." I couldn't resist. "Don't worry, it's only for me." Unless, she let the word dangle in the air like a knife. My stomach turned to ice. "You wouldn't." She leaned close, her perfume flooding my senses. "I won't as long as you keep being my perfect little doll." My knees weakened. I realized then I wasn't just trapped by her bet, her games, her experiments. I was trapped by evidence.
Proof that could ruin me.
That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had crossed a line I could never step back from. Weeks later, Delilah announced it was time for a grand debut. She took me to an upscale event, a glittering party filled with people who only saw me as the elegant young woman I appeared to be. My dress shimmered under the chandelier lights, my heels clicked across the marble floor, and countless eyes followed me. Compliments flowed like wine. "Your dress is stunning." "Such poise. You must model." "Who is she?" Every word made my heart pound harder. For the first time, I wasn't just playing a role, I was believable. At one point, a man offered me his hand. "Care to dance?" he asked with a smile. I froze, but Delilah's voice whispered firmly in my ear, "Say yes." And I did. I danced. My body swayed gracefully, my hair brushed against my cheek, and my dress flowed like liquid silk. The man's hand was firm on my waist, and the room spun as violins played. When the song ended, he leaned close and murmured, "You're enchanting." I excused myself quickly, my cheeks burning, my heart a storm. Later that night, when we returned home, I collapsed on the couch, breathless. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered. But Delilah only smiled knowingly. "You already are doing it," she said softly. "And you're better at it than you'll ever admit." Her words echoed inside me. Maybe she was right. Maybe the old me was gone forever. I thought I had already lost control of my life, but the truth was, things were just beginning to spiral further. It started innocently enough. I was sitting at my vanity, staring at my reflection, lipstick too red, eyeliner too sharp, hair falling perfectly across my cheek like I had stepped straight out of a beauty magazine. I didn't even recognize the boy I used to be. The person looking back at me was her. The girl they wanted me to become. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It wasn't the normal message. It was another video clip, a recording of me in my first humiliating moment, when I had been forced into a wig and a dress. My stomach dropped. The message read, "Do exactly as you're told tonight, or this goes public." My hands shook as I clutched the phone.
Public.
That word was enough to make my chest tighten. If even one of my old friends saw this, if my family saw this, my life, as I knew it, would be destroyed. And then came the second message. "Wear the silver dress. The one you're hiding in the back of your closet. Be ready by 8 p.m. Someone will pick you up." I froze. The silver dress wasn't just any outfit. It was the most feminine thing I owned. Tight, shimmering, cut low across the chest, hugging every curve I didn't even know I had until they forced me to. I had hidden it away, hoping I'd never have to wear it again. But now it was my only option. By 7:50 p.m., my hands were trembling so badly I could barely apply my lipstick. I stood in front of the mirror, silver fabric shimmering against my body, heels tall enough to make every step dangerous. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would tear through the dress. I heard the honk outside. A sleek black car. My ride. Sliding into the back seat, I realized I wasn't alone. A woman sat across from me, beautiful, confident, the type who radiated authority. She smirked as her eyes scanned me from head to toe. "Well," she said, crossing her legs, they weren't exaggerating. "You really do make a lovely girl." I swallowed hard, unable to reply. My voice would betray my fear. "Don't worry," she continued, leaning closer, her perfume filling the space between us. "Tonight, you're not allowed to think of yourself as a boy. You're mine. My little project. And projects don't get a choice." The car pulled up to a mansion, glowing with golden lights. Laughter and music spilled out as the doors opened. I froze. A party. And not just any party, an elegant, high-society event, where men in tailored suits and women in glittering gowns strolled through the halls as if they belonged there.
And now, so did I.
Inside, everything felt unreal. Chandeliers sparkled above me, violins played softly in the background, and dozens of eyes turned toward me as I entered. For a split second, I thought they could all see that I didn't belong, that underneath the makeup and the dress was just a boy playing a dangerous game. But then something strange happened. Instead of whispers or laughter, I felt admiration. Their gazes weren't mocking. They were hungry, curious, like I was something worth noticing. The woman from the car leaned down, her lips brushing against my ear. "Do you feel it?" she whispered. "That power? They all want you. And the more you give in, the harder it will be to go back." I tried to steady my breathing, but deep inside, a terrifying truth was forming. She was right. For the first time, I felt desirable.
Seen.
Beautiful. And that was the most dangerous trap of all. Because once you start to believe in the mask, it stops being a mask. Even legs under the covers, and I hated how natural it felt. The line between who I was and who I was becoming blurred with each passing day. And deep down, I feared one thing more than being exposed. What if I didn't want to go back? The night air outside felt heavy as I walked alongside Mrs. Sharma. The echo of my heels against the pavement still made me wince with embarrassment, but now there was no going back. I was her special assistant, at least in appearance, and if anyone from school saw me like this, my life would collapse. She guided me into her car, a sleek black sedan that seemed to gleam under the dim streetlights. Inside, the leather smelled expensive, the interior quiet and suffocating. My skirt rode up slightly as I sat down, and I had to tug it carefully to cover my thighs. Mrs. Sharma noticed, of course, and a satisfied smile crept across her face. "You're learning," she said softly, her eyes never leaving the road as she started the car. A lady always knows how to keep her dignity, even in the most uncomfortable situations. I swallowed hard. Every word she said carried weight. It wasn't just advice. It was a command, an expectation. She wasn't just teaching me to pass as a girl, she was molding me into her version of one. The drive took us into the heart of the city, a place filled with neon lights, honking cars, and the distant sounds of nightlife. My anxiety grew with every passing second. Where was she taking me? Who would see me like this? Finally, we pulled up outside a luxurious high-rise building with tinted glass windows. The kind of place that screamed money and influence. My stomach twisted into knots. "This," Mrs. Sharma said as she killed the engine, "is where your real test begins." I froze. "T-test." I stammered, my voice trembling. She turned to me, her gaze sharp, almost predatory. "You think I made you my assistant just to fetch coffee and papers? No, my dear. Tonight, you're going to prove that you can truly step into this role. Inside, you will meet people who know me. Powerful people. If you embarrass me, even for a second." Her words trailed off, but the threat lingered in the air like a blade at my throat. I nodded quickly, my hands trembling as I smoothed down my dress. "Good," she said, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. Now, shoulders back, chin up. A woman never shows fear. When we entered the building, the lobby hit me like a wave. Chandeliers sparkling overhead, marble floors polished to perfection, and men in tailored suits speaking quietly into earpieces. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked like they belonged here.
Except me.
My heels clicked awkwardly against the floor as I followed Mrs. Sharma into an elevator. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirrored wall, wig perfectly styled, makeup flawless, my outfit hugging me in a way that screamed femininity. On the surface, I looked the part. Inside, I was breaking apart. The elevator doors opened, and we stepped into a private lounge. The atmosphere was different here. Low lights, expensive perfumes, murmured conversations, the clinking of glasses. Heads turned as we entered. Mrs. Sharma, a deep voice called from across the room. A tall man in a navy suit approached, his eyes sharp and calculating. "You've brought company." Mrs. Sharma's hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "This is my assistant," she said smoothly. "She's new, but I assure you, she's very capable." My heart stopped. She had introduced me as she, and no one questioned it. The man extended his hand toward me. For a split second, panic flashed through my mind. Should I shake it like a man or a woman? I hesitated, then remembered Mrs. Sharma's words. I extended my hand delicately, allowing him to take it lightly, like I'd seen women do. His smile widened. "A pleasure." The moment passed, but my nerves didn't settle. This was just the beginning, and I knew it. Mrs. Sharma had thrown me into the fire, and if I faltered even once, I wouldn't just embarrass myself. I'd destroy whatever hold I still had on my old life.